this series, we will be creating a new Balek module that utilizes the Twitter API to obtain user information from Twitter and store it in a database. In this video, we will be focusing on what is needed for Balek to load your module at runtime by extending the login component in the modules directory. First, let's start by cloning the repository into a new directory and creating a new branch to store our module in. We must also run npm install to get the node modules Balek needs. We will also need to build and run our Docker database containers if they are not already set up. To make sure the database containers have enough time to initialize, you can take a look at your Docker dashboard. The MySQL container will take a few moments when you first run it. Once they are ready, you can start Balek with npm start. Now you can make sure everything is set up properly by logging into the interface and adding a guestbook entry. This will test both the MySQL and Mongo database containers. We are now ready to build our module. Let's start by configuring Balek to load our currently non-existent module when a session is requested. We do this by editing the config.json file in the source/Balek server/etc directory. Balek uses the last entered main module entry in this file and loads that module when a connection is made. You will see you can also configure the database and network settings in this file. After configuring and restarting Balek, we see that it cannot find the Twitter login module and nothing happens when we connect to the interface. Balek needs 3 files in order to load a module: module.js, instance.js, and interface.js. Where it finds these files together in relation to the Balek modules folder dictates the name of the module. We are going to create a login folder inside a Twitter folder to put our files in, and this will give us our Twitter/login module. First, we create our module.js file, which also loads the instance.js file as the module instance variable on lines 5 and 6. We see this variable is used in the new instance method to create a new module instance. This method is called by the module manager when the module is loaded for a session. The module.js file is only loaded at startup, but if there is an error in it or the instance file, the module will fail to load. It is also worth noting that this file must extend the base module class. Next, we create our instance.js file and fill it in like so. We see that it extends the instance base class on lines 4, 5, and 6, and at this point doesn't do much else. Creating the minimum interface.js file, we see the same is true for it. Reloading Balek, we can now see from the console output that the instance is loaded on the server and the interface in the browser when a connection is made. This seems like a good time to stage and commit our changes to the repository. Then we can finish up this module by editing it to inherit from the login component. Let's change the user interface name of our module in the console output to match the namespace by removing the word dev. The display name variable is what shows up in the module menu, and the 0 in the allowed sessions array means that this module is only loaded into a session without a user. We are now going to change our instance file to inherit from the login component instead of the base instance. We could leave the base instance variable alone, but I want to rename it for readability. Now we will do the same for our interface. Reloading Balek, we now have a login prompt provided by our module. But when we log in, we get an error prompt telling us we need to add an onLoginSuccess method to our interface. This method is called by the login component when it receives the expected response from the instance. So let's add it to our interface. Reloading Balek, we see it is working, but we want it to do more than display a different alert. In order to ask our session to load another module, we need to include the Dojo topic object into our interface. We can then use it to publish the request module load topic with the session menu argument. This will cause Balek to load the session menu, which we can change to our Twitter contacts module once we prepare it. Let's also publish the load background topic with the Flower of Life argument to load the Flower of Life background on login. Reloading, we see this is working as expected, but the login prompt is still visible after login. To fix this, we need to call the interface's unload method from the onLogin success method. Now we can see the login prompt disappears on login, and we are ready to start building our Twitter contacts module. It's a good time to commit our progress to the repository. In the next video, we will be extending Balek's synced commander component that will allow us to easily push state from the instance to the interface, while also allowing the interface to easily call methods in the instance. Please leave your questions and comments below, and thanks for watching.